3:45 a.m., January 14, 2026, Jankoy Air Base, Crimea. The night explodes without warning as a fireball rips through what was supposed to be Russia's untouchable shield. A $1.2 billion S-400 battery reduced to burning wreckage, while stunned Russian crews stare at empty radar screens blinking like slot machines that just hit bankruptcy. If this system was truly invincible, then this blast should be impossible. If the radar saw everything, nothing should have slipped through. And yet, something did. Something clever. Something humiliating. In the command bunker, officers freeze as alarms overlap, radios scream, and one impossible realization sets in. The missiles didn't miss. They were tricked. Margin for error 0. Time remaining 14 seconds. Stay focused, because how this night unfolds is a masterclass in making a technological giant fire itself into oblivion. Hours before that explosion, the Russians were relaxed, almost bored. The S-400 Triumph sat in Crimea like a steel god, surrounded by layers of confidence and concrete. Its 92N6E gravestone radar rotating slowly, patiently, watching 600 kilometers of sky as if nothing on Earth could surprise it. Panzer SM units hugged the perimeter, cannons loaded, missiles armed, their crews joking that tonight would be quiet. Above them, Su-35S fighters prowled the darkness, expensive Predators burning jet fuel just to remind everyone who owned the air. This was the myth Moscow loved to sell. Overlapping sensors, electronic warfare from Murmansk BN flooding the spectrum, missiles stacked like poker chips in a casino that never loses. Any intruder would be seen, tracked, classified, and erased long before it mattered. If you were the commander of this battery, would you worry? Or would you trust the machine, sip your coffee, and believe the legend that nothing gets through an S-400 wall? What sat outside Jankoy wasn't just hardware, it was a floating balance sheet of Russian pride. One S-400 battery, fully deployed, priced north of $1.2 billion, each interceptor missile alone flirting with the $2 million mark, every radar, truck, and launcher a line item Moscow couldn't easily replace. This wasn't a disposable unit. This was strategic capital, guarding Crimea like a crown jewel. Lose it, and you don't just lose metal. You lose coverage, credibility, and months of manufacturing time. If you're Ukraine, this isn't a target, it's a jackpot. Stay with me, because the question isn't whether this fortress can be cracked. It's how cheaply it can be convinced to destroy itself. 3:58 a.m. The first ghosts appear on Russian radar like a nightmare rendered in perfect digital clarity. 12 contacts bloom at once, clean vectors, disciplined spacing, each return screaming the unmistakable signature of an F-16 Viper running hot and low. The 92N6E gravestone radar reacts instantly, because it was built to react, not to doubt. To the system, these are fighters. To the operators, this looks like the opening move of a major air raid. But here is the twist the planners never saw coming. Not a single one of these aircraft exists. These are ADM-160 Maldex decoys, $20,000 lies loaded with AI-generated flight behavior, replicating pilot hesitation, throttle changes, even micro-errors humans make under stress. Altitude shifts feel organic. Radar cross-sections breathe like real aluminum. Stay focused, because this isn't deception. This is performance art designed specifically to seduce machines. While Russian attention locks upward, a second layer slips in low, beneath the comfortable logic of radar filters and doctrinal assumptions. 20 AQ-400 Scythe drones crawl forward, wooden frames, cheap engines whining, flying badly on purpose, forcing operators to argue whether these are threats or trash. But wait, this is where it turns lethal. These drones aren't attacking, they're listening. Every sweep of the radar, every frequency hop, every tracking correction is harvested, time-stamped, and streamed back to Ukrainian algorithms watching quietly from far outside the kill zone. Murmansk BN electronic warfare floods the spectrum in response, but instead of clarity, it creates chaos, amplifying reflections, duplicating contacts, turning the screen into a glowing hallucination. Inside the bunker, officers point at screens, voices overlap, coffee spills on consoles. If you were the commander right now, what would you trust more? Your instincts, or a system that has never failed you before? Time remaining 120 seconds. The software resolves the argument. Launch authorization flashes green. One interceptor fires, then another, then another. Each $2 million missile screams upward to erase a decoy cheaper than its paint job. And that is the most dangerous moment in modern warfare, when a defense system mistakes expenditure for success. Down below, Russian crews start high-fiving, convinced the sky is being cleared, unaware that every launch empties magazines, exposes firing rhythm, and paints a glowing target over Junkoy for what comes next. Stay with me, because arrogance just became measurable. 4:02 a.m. In the minutes after the launches, the bunker atmosphere flips from tension to triumph with embarrassing speed. Russian crews clap shoulders, slap hands, and laugh with the loose confidence of men who believe the machine just proved them right. On the radar, targets vanish one by one, erased by clean missile arcs, each confirmation beep celebrated like a goal scored in overtime. Someone jokes about Western pilots losing their nerve. Another pours vodka into a chipped mug, convinced the night is already over. But here is the lethal error. They're counting disappearances, not costs. Every green light feels like victory, yet each one drains the battery closer to zero. The Pantsir SM crews relax, cannons idle, missiles untouched because the sky looks clean enough. Su-35S pilots circle above, bored, burning fuel for nothing, unaware they're guarding an empty promise. Stay focused, because this is what arrogance looks like on a spreadsheet. Inside the command room, no one notices the pattern forming. Launch intervals shorten, reload crews rush, radar emissions settle into predictable rhythms. This is the moment Ukraine wanted, when confidence replaces caution and repetition replaces creativity. But wait, there's another humiliation brewing. The Russians think they're swatting flies, but what they're really doing is rehearsing their own exposure, broadcasting habits, weaknesses, and timing like a live training exercise for the enemy. If you were the commander right now, would you stop firing and admit uncertainty, or keep going to protect the myth? Time remaining 60 seconds. The system chooses again. Another interceptor launches. Another cheer echoes. And somewhere far away, Ukrainian operators watch calmly as Russian defenses burn money, fuel, and credibility at the same rate, clearing the stage for something very real, very fast, and very unforgiving. And that calm is the giveaway. No frantic radio calls, no evasive maneuvers, just routine, predictable, mechanical. The kind of behavior only machines and overconfident armies repeat right before reality punches back. 4:06 a.m. While Russian crews are still congratulating themselves, two real aircraft cut through the darkness far beyond the radar horizon. Ukrainian F-16 Vipers fly disciplined and quiet, their pilots staring at screens that finally look clean, not empty, but clean in the way a hunter recognizes just before the shot. The decoys did their job, the drones finished their homework. Now the math changes. Stay focused, because this is the moment the myth collapses. The S-400 radar lights up again, confident and exposed, emitting like a lighthouse during a blackout. That signal is not protection anymore. It's an invitation. In the cockpit, a pilot's thumb settles, and the AGM-88G AARGM-ER drops free, engine igniting as the missile snaps to attention, locking onto the brightest object in Crimea, the gravestone radar itself. Time to impact 45 seconds. Inside the bunker, celebration turns to noise. Alarms overlap. Someone yells about anti-radiation warnings. Pantsir crews scramble, cannons spinning up, missiles hunting shadows that no longer exist. Su-35S pilots call for vectors that arrive too late. But here is the cruel elegance of the trap. The radar can shut down to survive, but doing so blinds the battery completely. On or off, it loses. There is no correct button to press. Time remaining 18 seconds. The AARGM-ER dives, accelerating, riding the emissions meant to defend the site. Impact. The radar van erupts as electronics flash boil, antennas collapsing inward like paper crushed by a giant hand. But the night isn't finished. From deep inside Ukrainian-controlled territory, ATACMS M57 missiles arc high, then tip downward into near-vertical descent, guided by coordinates harvested during the chaos. Time to impact 12 seconds. 8, 5. The launchers never see it coming. Warheads slam into firing positions, detonations chaining across vehicles, fuel trucks, and loaded interceptors. The physics is merciless. Secondary explosions bloom as stored missiles cook off, pressure waves flipping metal like toys, heat turning precision machinery into molten scrap. This isn't suppression, this is liquidation. In the F-16 cockpit, the pilot exhales, calm, almost bored. On the ground, Russian crews scatter through smoke and debris, their invincible shield reduced to glowing wreckage. The night goes quiet again, but this time the silence isn't confidence, it's absence. And in that absence, one truth remains louder than every explosion. The real weapons only arrived after the defenses spent millions destroying themselves. 4:07 a.m. This is where physics takes over and excuses disappear. The first detonation isn't loud, it's sharp, a pressure spike so violent it compresses air into a weapon. The AARGMER impact doesn't just break hardware, it flash-boils circuitry, copper traces vaporizing into plasma as the shock front races through the radar van. Microseconds later, that energy reflects inward, shredding racks, snapping mounts, and turning hardened electronics into shrapnel. Then the chain reaction begins. ATAM's warheads strike within meters of loaded launchers, and this is where stored chemical energy becomes the real killer. Solid rocket propellant ignites sympathetically, not exploding all at once, but cooking off in staggered pulses that hammer the site repeatedly. Each secondary blast amplifies the next, pressure stacking like waves in a closed room. Steel panels flex, then fail. Tires burst. Fuel atomizes and ignites, feeding fireballs that roll low and fast, searching for oxygen. Stay focused, because this is the part most people miss. The Monroe effect doesn't politely punch a hole. It concentrates force into a jet of molten metal moving faster than sound, slicing through armor, racks, and human shelter alike. Shock waves rebound off concrete revetments, trapping crews in overlapping overpressure zones where lungs can't equalize fast enough. This isn't chaos, it's mechanics. From above, infrared sensors see it clearly. Heat blooms expand, merge, and stabilize into one continuous signature, a thermal footprint that screams total loss. What was once a network defense becomes isolated fires, then cooling wreckage. No radar emissions, no command loops, just physics finishing what strategy started. If you're still thinking this was luck, stop watching. But if you understand that in modern war, energy management decides outcomes, then you know what just happened. The S-400 didn't lose a fight. It lost a math problem. And the answer was written in pressure, temperature, and time. By sunrise, the smoke over Jankoy tells a story. Wall Street understands instantly. Ukraine spent roughly $120,000 on decoys, another few $100,000 on disposable drones, and a limited number of precision munitions already accounted for in long-term aid packages. Russia lost a $1.2 billion S-400 battery, millions more in interceptors fired into nothing, weeks of air defense coverage erased, and months of production time it simply doesn't have. That's not combat, that's a hostile takeover. Stay with me, because this is the strategic checkmate most people miss. The real victory isn't the wreckage, it's the vacuum. Crimea wakes up exposed, pilots hesitate, commanders reshuffle assets. Every remaining battery is forced to choose between staying silent and staying alive. That hesitation is the aftershock. That's deterrence flipping direction. This is the math that kills empires. A $20,000 decoy forcing a $2 million missile launch isn't clever, it's devastating. Repeat it often enough and even the biggest defense budget bleeds out. Russia didn't lose because Ukraine had more metal. Russia lost because Ukraine understood return on investment better than the system designed to stop it. Now here's the question that separates spectators from strategists. If you're Moscow, do you double down on expensive, predictable defenses? Or do you admit that modern war rewards intelligence over intimidation? And if you're Ukraine, would you trade brute force for algorithms every single time? Tell me in the comments, was this a technological fluke or a blueprint for how wars will be fought from now on? Because after tonight in Crimea, one thing is certain, the age of invincible air defense just met its accountant.